And joining us is a host at Law and Crime Network and a former Morris County, New Jersey prosecutor. Please welcome Bob Bianchi to the program. Bob, I want to jump right in. I saw your tweet over the weekend. You are pissed off about this decision by the town or city, whatever you want to call it, of Princeton, who decided to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. At last chance, Bianchi is Italian. You have the stage, sir.
Yeah, yes. I got to be honest with you. I am so agitated at this movement that's been going on for a number of years. They would never be done with any other ethnic group in this country except the Italian Americans, who continue to get kicked in the teeth. We have to listen to all of these arguments made by people overly sensitive about this, that, and the other thing. Okay, fine. I listen to them. But to take a national holiday for a person who's in history has done the most for Western civilization than probably anybody because he brought over here. I don't care if you want to say he discovered it or the Norwegians discovered it or there were indigenous people here. He brought it to Western civilization. And now they want to do is sit there and bastardize this history with all sorts of tales of bringing disease and massacring the indigenous population. These facts, Joe Cooper, are simply untrue. The worst part of this whole thing is that the basis upon which this movement is occurring is based on falsity. So, the Order Sons and Daughters of Italy and America, of which I am the first national vice president, are going to be meeting the Congressional Italian American Caucus later this month. And I call on and challenge the Congress people to do an investigation as to the true facts about Columbus and the benefits and everything that he has done for us. And we are poised to start bringing discrimination lawsuits against these states and these cities that do this, because people don't know this. Italians are a protected class, and this is discrimination. My last point is, let's not forget when in our country's history Columbus became deified, if you will. That was right after the largest lynching of any ethnic group in this country occurred, of 12 Italian Americans who were found not guilty of crimes that were propped up against them, and they did this as a way to assuage and to honor the Italian American community. And what did the Italians do with that? These hardworking people working 2, 3 jobs. They didn't ask for assistance. They didn't ask for a handout. They worked those jobs and scraped pennies, nickels, and dimes together to build that monument at Columbus Circle of Columbus. And now we're going to take it and knock that down, knock out, I guess you can't say Columbus, Ohio anymore. You can't talk about Columbia, where I guess we're going to have to just start eradicating the history of George Washington, who had slaves. I mean, this revisionist history is ridiculous. Did bad things happen? Potentially. But let's put things in context. My last point, I'm sorry, I'm going to rant.
No, please keep going.
We love it.
Yeah. To my Democratic friends, of which I hold that persuasion for my Italian career. These are the things that are destroying our party when we are continually catering to these politically correct whims that make the rest of us who are moderate and conservative Democrats just turn and wince away from the party. And maybe some Republicans are part of this too. I don't know. But here's my point from this point forward. Italian Americans represent 40% of the state of New Jersey. And I can tell you from a political point of view, we have never received, ever, our proper due from anyone. We're always the ones that get their teeth kicked in. Can you imagine Joe Cooper having shows? Crime figures, mob figures, buffoons, and idiots would never be allowed with any other ethnic group. And this issue has now been a lightning rod for us. Instead of sitting there saying, we want to patriate into society. That's how it was with the Italian Americans. We don't want to identify with being Italian. We want to be Americans. Well, now it's coming back to bite all the Italian Americans in the backside, because while everybody else is advocating for their issues, we have nobody to advocate for ours. It ends now, and Columbus Day is going to be the issue that's going to do it.
Cooper, I'm trying to think which Corleone Bob Bianchi would be. He's not Fredo. He's not even Michael. He's Sonny.
Oh, yeah.
He wants
Sonny.
blood.
Dude, I am no Fredo. I'll tell you that. I don't know which one I am, but I'm not that guy.
That's a good thing not to be.
You make a really good point. I mean, Columbus Day has become about Italian Americans for so many years. That's what it's about. And I guess the other thing is, if you want to have an Indigenous Peoples Day, just do that another day. Like, choose another day and have that. Like, why does one have to usurp the other?
Yeah, Cooper, that is the absurdity. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's look at what Princeton said. Cute by half, and this is why people hate politicians. Their argument was that they put Indigenous Population Day today for purposes of, get this, guys, you ready? Drum roll, please. Inclusion. for inclusion purposes. And what they said, when we said, what do you mean inclusion? There is already an Indigenous Population Day, or you can have an Indigenous Population Day on any other day. But you think we're fools to not understand that you put Indigenous Population Day on a day celebrated as a federal and state holiday on Columbus Day? And their response was, well, we never honored Columbus Day, so it's not like we're taking Columbus Day out. Give me a break. You know what? It makes me want to vomit, honestly.
Enjoy your dinner, everybody. Cooper, let's talk legal stuff.
Yeah, well, the other thing that you've been talking about a lot, Bob, is I love that you do so much true crime because I'm fascinated by true crime. Talk about, I know you were on HLN talking about the Amy Mullins case. Can you tell us a little about that?
Amy Mullins, jog my memory because there's so many cases.
That's the corn rake murder. And they found some stuff on his computer, the husband who allegedly murdered his wife.
Yeah, so this is a case where there's acrimony going on in the relationship, and they live kind of in a rural area. And according to the defendant, who gave a statement, which is always a bad thing, never talk to the police, even if you're innocent and or guilty, it doesn't make a difference. And he says, like, I don't know. I went into the barn, and there was my wife, and she was laying there, and she fell on a corn rake. There was nobody else around. There's nobody else that has any motive. The only problem for him, which I think was the most important thing forensically, was that there were 6 marks, and I come to learn, this is why I love being a lawyer, that a corn rake, I was calling it a corn fork, Joe, for like 2 days. What does the guy from Jersey know about a corn rake? But in any event, there were 6 holes in the woman, so obviously she did not fall on this rake one time. And then to Cooper's point, they start going through the forensic data on the computers, and I can just tell you, having been a prosecutor before computers and then having been a prosecutor after the advent of computers, these computers are just a treasure trove. These phones are just unbelievable. And can you imagine that people in this day and age are stupid enough, maybe she's been found guilty of this alone, where he is looking up things like unfaithful women, how were unfaithful women tortured in the past, how to kill an unfaithful woman, things of this nature that were on his computer. So, and then one of the other things is kind of like a nuanced thing, but it was really cool. When they were interviewing him, he was basically speaking as if when they said, we have the evidence to know that you murdered her. And he thought for a minute, he goes, well, what evidence do you have? Now, that's a tell, right? I've been in lots of interviews with murder suspects, and when you accuse somebody, you guys just put yourselves in these positions or your loved ones. If someone were to come to me and say you murdered your wife, I'd be like, what the hell are you talking? You can't possibly have any kind of evidence.
Right.
And rather, he wanted to know what evidence it was they had. Fascinating case, not a surprise he went down.
Yeah. We're speaking with Bob Bianchi. He is the host at Law and Crime Network. Just give me a little bit about what's going on in Texas. So there's a woman shot to death in Fort Worth, and then we have the Amber Geiger case. Just give us a little recap of what's happening in Texas right now.
Sure. Right on the heels of Amber Geiger, a police officer who shot and killed Gene Botham in his apartment, having believed it was her apartment, it was an intruder. A very nationally publicized case. She was found guilty and given a 10-year sentence by the jury, which is interesting in and of itself. But right on the heels of that, in Fort Worth this weekend, 911 is called to go do a welfare check on a house. You literally see the body cam footage where the cop is going around with a flashlight in the dark. Apparently, this beautiful woman who was babysitting her nephew in her own home and minding her own business is inside. The police officer sees her, says, get your hands up, and then like in a split second, has his gun out, shoots and kills this woman. And I can only think I know exactly how things like this happen. She was probably thinking that she was being burglarized. It's night out. There's a flashlight. Somebody shining a flashlight in her windows. She takes her gun out for protection. So that's supposedly. We don't know if she had the gun out or not. But even if she did, what is happening in the state of Texas with these cop shootings?
Bob Bianchi, unfortunately, we are out of time, but yeah, what is going on in Texas? We ask that question on a daily basis
Pretty
here,
much
Cooper.
do. That in Florida.
You are a host at the Law and Crime Network, all over Fox News and cable news for that matter, and of course, a former Morris County, New Jersey prosecutor. Thanks so much, Bob. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Happy
Thanks,
Columbus
Bob.
Day.
Same to you.